A pattern isn't done until you're happy with the result. Welcome to episode 27 of the Knitted by Whitney podcast. I'm going to apologize right away because I'm recording later in the day and I don't know yet how long this video will be. So if the lighting gets a little darker, I do apologize about that, but I really wanted to get this recorded. I'm on a bit of a tight recording schedule right now. You won't notice anything on your end, but on the back end of things with Knitted by Whitney, I'm doing a lot of recording right now because I'm working on those stash tour videos and we have a very busy month of September, so I'm trying to get them done wherever I can. And right now, I'm feeling a little bit of the pinch of working on a lot of videos all at the same time, recording wherever and whenever I can. So that's why I'm recording a little later than I normally would, but anyone else who is a YouTuber knows you need to record when you feel the vibes, because when you record when you're not feeling it, you can 100% tell. And I don't like doing that. I don't like feeling that way and producing content that I'm not really happy with, especially when it comes to these podcast episodes where I'm talking to you. I like to feel like I know what I want to say, I'm saying it the way that I want to say it, and you're getting an enjoyable experience out of it. So a little bit of recording crunch behind the scenes, but I hope you're really going to like the stash tour videos. I was really happy with the last one that I recorded. I felt like I had super good energy, so hopefully the rest of them will follow the same pattern. Speaking of patterns, you may notice that I'm wearing something. This is my first and only finished object today. This is my Pillars tank by Claire Jackson of Perfectly Knotted. And I have heavily modified this. Not in the sizing, not in the instructions on how to make it fit properly. I have followed the pattern to the letter with that. I have made some modifications to what the tank top looks like. First of all, I'm going to try and scooch up a little bit. You'll notice I have done a fully stockinette tank top. So as much as I love the ribbed version of the original, I really wanted a hand knit white tank top that was just plain stockinette to go in my wardrobe to take the place of a store-bought one that I have. The store-bought one that I have is not a V-neck, it's a round neck and it's quite high. It's similar to the style of the Beignets tank top that I worked on, but we all know how well that tank top went. So I wanted to try something a little differently for this tank top, and I made a few adjustments accordingly. But I also did something to match with that store-bought tank top. I did a little split hem, and then I did a folded hem for the bottom just to keep it nice and flat. And although I really like it, I don't think I would do it again. It was a little fiddly trying to close up the side of that folded hem. And with my next version, yes, I have a next version already on the needles. I'm going to make a few adjustments and I'm going to talk you through them. So this was my first time doing a V-neck tank top, and Claire's pattern has 2 V-neck options, and I think there's also a round neck option. And I feel like I chose the wrong V-neck for my comfort level. This is the deeper V-neck, and it looked fine, before blocking. It was a little uncomfortable before blocking, but as much as I tried to contain it, when I blocked it, the V grew deeper. The rest of the tank top stayed in the right shape, but I just couldn't get those straps to just smoosh into the same length that they were before blocking. So unfortunately, I have a deeper V. And the reason that I'm uncomfortable with this level of V-neck, because I will admit it looks really sexy and I'm feeling myself in it, let's be honest. What I don't like is it dips low enough that you see the peak of my bra. So I'm wearing a flesh-toned bra, so you can't really see it with this particular bra because it's the same color as my skin. But I have another bra that I like to wear that is a pale purple. And I don't really like tops that show my bra, which we will explore more in a minute with this particular top. But I'm just a little uncomfortable with that, and this isn't exactly a top that I could just smoosh together and seam because it will leave a bit of a pucker. So I'm going to make some adjustments when I do my next version, but for right now we're sticking with my white version because I have more to talk about. Before I move on to the back, which is where I have some interesting things to tell you, I do want to point out that I did bust shaping for the first time on this tank top. And in case you can't tell by my tone of voice, it worked out so well and I'm so happy. And it was incredibly easy. I followed the tutorial that Claire linked in the pattern. It is a free tutorial and it's not part of her pattern, so I can talk about it. I forget the name of the person who put the tutorial together, but I'm going to link it in the description box below. I also have it linked in my story highlights on Instagram. So if you're over there, it's also over there. But it was so easy to follow. You do need to do some math, but it's not scary math. It's really easy math. You just write everything out, and in the end, you have an exact list of instructions to follow, down to how many rows you need to do, how many stitches for your short rows, how many stitches in between your short rows, how many short rows to do. It was brilliant. Now I will point out that these were for horizontal bust starts using short rows. So if you want to do a different style of bust start, this tutorial doesn't cover that. It only covered the horizontal short row style bust starts. Now let me see if I can show you. Yeah, right about there. It kind of looks like an appendix surgery scar. Those are my short rows. So as you can tell, I needed to do quite a few short rows because I have a large difference between my full bust and my under bust or my waist. But overall, I'm incredibly happy with the fit that I got from doing the bust starts. And honestly, I don't really notice a ton of difference from how it fits on my upper bust to how it fits the bust to how it fits the waist and the hips. What I will say that I notice, and let me pop up again to show you, those bust starts give me a perfectly level hem to my t-shirt. If I didn't have these bust starts, so let me pinch that fabric up, this is what my tank top would look like. So you can see that I would have this ridge that the angle of the hem comes up at such a drastic angle. But with the bust starts, it's perfectly straight. So I am really, really happy with that. I will say for the fit of the garment, overall, I have a little bit of positive ease. That wasn't intentional, but I'm guessing it's because I did not listen to the pattern's instructions where it said to choose a size with more negative ease than you think you need if you're using a plant-based fiber. And I used Lion Brand Kobu, which is a blend of 50-50 cotton and viscose from bamboo. So that's my own fault that I have more of a positive eased tank top than I originally thought I was going to have. But I'm not upset about it. It's really flowy, it's really comfortable, it's really airy, and with my little split hem at the bottom, it gives me just a little extra ease for my hips because this does hit me a little below my waist and coming down to my hip section. But it's a great length for me to be able to wear with both jeans, pants, and also my high-waisted options like my skirts and stuff. So I'm really excited to be able to wear this in a lot of ways because of that nice fit and the nice length that I chose. The pattern doesn't really give you a recommended length. You kind of knit until you're happy with it. So that works for me because I feel that length is really personal when it comes to your knitted tops. I chose to go, I think, 10 inches, maybe 11. I'm not quite sure. I'll have to measure this again. But when I hit the length that I wanted, either 10 or 11 inches, I then did a purl row right here, and then I knit the second half of the folded hem. So the way that I do folded hems, which I learned from Laura Penrose, is when you go to do your purl row, you use a smaller sized needle to knit your purl row, or purl your purl row, I guess. And then you use that smaller needle to knit the back half of the folded hem before binding off and then seaming together with whip stitch. And you make sure you do your whip stitch and your bind off a little loose. Not too loose because you don't want it flaring out, but loose enough that it still has a little bit of elasticity. Like, it doesn't have much, but it has enough that it's not pulling it in and puckering. So I got gauge with a US 6, which I think is a 4mm needle, and then I used a US 5, which I think is a 3.75mm needle to do my folded hem, purl row, and the back half. So that needle size is smaller than the pattern recommends, but not by much, so it's not a really big change. And I did get gauge perfectly for the rest of the pattern. So my slightly large size is not caused by gauge. It is caused by using a plant-based yarn, which does give you more drape and more looseness than an animal fiber would, like wool or superwash wool. So I'm okay with the loose shaping. I actually kind of like it. It feels really beachy and breezy. But I know when I knit my next one, I'm going to make sure that I have more of a fitted size. So I am going to be using an animal fiber for my next one, but I'm not ready to talk about that one yet because I still have one really big thing to tell you about this pattern that I modified. So there are a lot of variations of this pattern. I chose to do the deep V front and the deep V back. And when I showed this on my last podcast episode, I only had those first two triangles, and that was about a month ago. Since that time, obviously I finished the tank top, but I also got a different bra. And the bra that I'm wearing now is a front closure bra. And the back of that bra comes up higher than the bra that I was wearing when I started this pattern. So when I went to try on my finished tank top with the bra and everything, because when I was trying it on just for length and stuff, I was knitting it at nighttime. I was in my pajamas. I didn't have a bra on, so I wasn't aware yet that I had this issue. But when I tried it on for the first time with my bra on after finishing it, but before blocking it, I had a really big issue. You can see the back of my bra all through that beautiful deep V. And I have to be honest, I was gutted about this. That happened to me, I'm recording on Sunday. That happened to me Wednesday night. Yeah, Wednesday night was when I tried it on and I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And it really beat me down to have that happen because I already had gone through so many patterns that had just not worked for me. I had just had the tank top pattern horror show of the beignets, and I had started this pattern as a way of cleansing tank top patterns for me, and this happened. So I was feeling really beat down. I was feeling a lot of self-pity at that time, and I was saying to my husband, what if I'm not a good knitter anymore? What if I'm really not that good and I keep making these mistakes, and I was really self-deprecating, and I'm not proud of that. I'm really, I wish I hadn't have done that. I wish I had, believed in myself more. And, in the sobering light of day, the next day, I understood that was just me speaking from that hard time of feeling the weight of my past failures this year all kind of stacking up against me. And in the cold light of day, I realized, no. I have been experimenting with new patterns. I have been trying out new methods. I have been trying out new techniques to me. I have been bold and brave to try these new things. And that's kind of what happens when you try new things. They don't always work out. And that's okay. Because even when things don't work out, you learn something from them. I want to share a quote, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I can't quite remember the actual quote, and it's saved on my phone, which is what I use to record. But it's a quote by Tom Daly when he was being interviewed on a podcast episode. And in it, he said, sometimes when you need to start over and rip everything out and start over from the very beginning, you're not starting from scratch, you're starting from experience. And I love that quote. And I'm trying to really internalize that quote and remember that every time something doesn't work out for me. I'm not starting over from scratch. I'm starting over from experience. So I really wanted to share that little nugget of wisdom, especially after me having this little bit of a meltdown where I was feeling really sorry for myself. And the next day I woke up and I pulled myself out of that and I reminded myself, no. You are very talented. You are very experienced. You are very bold and brave to try all of these new things. You are a good knitter. So it took a while for my self-pity to kind of go away in the night, but I woke up feeling, no, I am good and I know what I'm doing. I'm just trying new things. So this reminds me of another great quote. This one I do remember because it's a shorter one and I hear it all the time from other people and I see it all the time, and I've really internalized this one as well. And I love to say this to other people. This is by the amazing Gigi Made It, who is such a beacon of positivity online. If you don't follow her, I highly recommend it. She has a great quote that says, "It's not hard, it's new." And in this case, I was doing something new. And this is what happens sometimes when you do something new. It doesn't work out. So anyway, I posted in my close friends' stories with photos of the back of the tank top thinking, what do I do? And asking for suggestions, asking my close friends, is it okay that you can see it? Should I re-knit it? Should I just suffer and wear the bra that I used to wear that's not as comfortable as the bras that I wear now? What do I do? So I really didn't want to wear the bra that didn't fit anymore because it's not comfortable. I wear much more comfortable ones now. And I didn't really want to start over again because I had worked on this for so long. So that left me with the visible bra. And I'm not one of those people that gets huffy about a bra being visible. Like, it's no secret that I'm wearing a bra. I have breasts. They need support. A bra is that support. But I didn't like the look of that straight across section that basically ruined the look of the deep V, in my opinion. And I wanted that plain deep V because to me that's a really sexy look, and seeing my bra underneath just kind of made it look like a layering piece, and it just kind of looked, oh, that's not as nice. So there's nothing wrong with it. It just didn't feel like my personal style, and it didn't feel like something that made me feel sexy. So I decided to fix it. And I had some great suggestions from two of my friends, Allison and Cassandra, and both of them suggested to knit a panel. And Cassandra, because she loves lace and she is so bold and adventurous and really talented when it comes to knitting lace, told me that I should knit a lace panel. And at first I was thinking, oh no, that sounds really difficult. But I did it. And I'm gonna just turn my top around so that you can see it because it's a little hard to contort myself to show you what this lace looks like. This is my lace panel, and I'm going to put a photo here as well of what it looks like on my back because I really want to show you what this looks like because I'm really, really proud of this and I feel like I did such a great job. I used a free bandana pattern because I needed something that was just a V shape. I don't remember the name of the pattern, but I will link it in the description box below. But it was a free pattern on Ravelry, and you just started at the bottom V of the bandana and you knit up doing this really beautiful, I think it's like a floral lace stitch. And it was just a simple, you have like an extra one of the flowers every time you do the repeat. And it was a relatively easy repeat. I really enjoyed doing it. And it fit perfectly. So what I did when I started this, the tank top uses slip stitch edging on the straps down to the V to keep it nice and straight. The bandana also had slip stitch edging on the edges of the bandana to keep them nice and straight. So after I finished the triangle size that I needed to cover up my bra, I bound off, and at first I bound off really loosely, and then when I tried to put it on the tank top the first time, it just like came right out and it looked really weird. But the second time that I did, I bound off very tightly so that it would be nice and snug. And then, I can't believe I did this, I crochet seamed it onto the tank top by matching up the slip stitches. And as you can tell, it's so seamless. It looks beautiful. I'm so happy with it. I can't believe it turned out so good. But it also reminded me like, oh yeah, sometimes when you try something new, beautiful, magical things like this happen. And it was just night and day to how I was feeling the Wednesday night when I had the issue of my bra being visible with the tank top. And I just felt so proud of myself and so happy that I didn't give up on this tank top and that I took some time to think about and crowdsource some solutions, and it just looks so good. I just want to give myself like a really good pat on the back for that because I just feel so good about that. And it really helps me save this tank top and make it more wearable for me and make me feel very comfortable in it. So now that I've gushed and gushed about the Pillars Tank by Claire Jackson, the fact that I have two other versions of this also on needles should tell you how much I love this pattern and how much I love Claire's designing and dedication to size inclusivity. So happy about that. If you have not checked out Claire's patterns, I highly recommend them. They're so thought out and detailed. She's definitely one of my favorite Canadian designers and possibly one of my favorite designers in general. So check her out. I highly recommend her. But anyway, I have two more versions of her Pillars tank, one of which is the dress version, which I have previously shown. And I'll tell you what, after doing this white version, I am so glad I did not go forward with that version to try to try bust shaping for the first time. And I'm glad that I used this one kind of as a beta version to see what works for me and what doesn't, because now I can go back and start that one over again the way that I want it to be for my perfect comfort level. So I'm not going to do the deep V, I'm just going to do the V-neck, which I think is going to be a much better comfort fit for me. It's still going to be sexy because I'm going to make it sexy. And then the back, I'm probably just going to do the high back just so I know that I don't need to worry about a deep V in the back. I think even the regular V might still dip down the tiniest bit to show my bra, and I just want to avoid that completely by just doing the high back. I'm not fussed about having to redo it. That's totally fine with me. But I also started a yellow version. So I started this one because I was loving this version, but I thought, I wonder how it will change by doing it with an animal fiber instead. So this is Dragon Horde Designs. This is her Fairy Tale DK base, and the color is Word Marks. Now it's spelled out word W-O-R-D space marks. But she does a lot of Sarah J. Maas inspired yarns, so I wonder if it's meant to be word marks like word marks in Throne of Glass, which is W-Y-R-D marks. So I don't know, I'm hypothesizing, but I like to think it is because I love Throne of Glass and this is a beautiful color. The word marks, of course, are done in like anything that you're using to write down, but the stone and stuff that the word stone is a pitch black. So I'm probably reaching for straws, trying to connect this to one of my favorite fantasy series, and it doesn't connect at all. But either way, this is a gorgeous, gorgeous mustard yellow. It does have some variation to it, and it's almost like a bit of olivey green as well. So it's subtle, subtle, subtle tonal, but it is primarily this really beautiful mustard yellow. And yes, I did already cut this off and I'm gonna have to go back and redo it. But this is all that I've knit so far from the Pillars tag, doing the deep V back and front. So I'm just going to go back and, like I said, with my dress version, I'm going to do the high back for the back and just the regular V-neck for the front. So I'll keep plugging away at this. I don't know if I'll have some progress on it next podcast episode or not, because I do have some fall stuff that I want to work on. When I get closer to the end of the video, I'm going to go through some of my fall makes and knitting plans for fall. So this one might kind of become a background project, but I really love the construction of this top and it really makes me excited about making it. So I probably will work on this again. I also kind of want to do my short row bust shaping while it's still relatively fresh in my mind, so I probably will work on this one relatively soon. But for now, it's gonna go off to the side just because I have some other stuff that I am still trying to get finished before I move into my very busy month of September. I think I only have like 1 week that is a normal week, and then after that, it just ramps right up and I won't have time to do some stuff until October. Sorry if the lighting looks a little weird. I had to turn on my bedroom lights, but I kept them really, really low, so hopefully they won't influence the colors of my knitting. But the rest of the stuff that I'm going to show you is all stuff that you've seen in my last podcast episode. It was just starting to get really dark in my bedroom because today is a cloudy day, so even though we're still in daylight hours because it's still, the tail end of summer, because it is so cloudy out and because it's high summer, all of the trees in front of my bedroom window have lots and lots of leaves. There's just not a lot of light coming in and it was starting to get a little too dark for filming. So apologies that the light is different. I hope this is okay. So my next project that I'm going to show you was getting really close to being done, and I thought that that would be the finished object for this episode if I was going to have a finished object. But the tank top kind of took over my knitting and I just had so much fun with that because last episode I only had the 2 back triangles for it and now I have the whole thing done. But I have made quite a bit of progress on my romance cardigan. So I'm going to put this one on because that's going to be the best way to show you the amount of work that I have done on this. Selfishly, I'm also glad to have another layer on because it is a little chilly in the bedroom right now. I have our heat pump running on cold and I have the door closed, so that makes the room keep the cold in. But one of my cats is annoying the you-know-what out of me. Anyone else who has a black cat, they are mouthy cats. And not only is my black cat mouthy, he's also a bit of a Velcro cat and he doesn't really like it when I close the door and he can't come in. So if you have heard a screaming cat so far, or if you are going to hear one a little later on, I do apologize about that. That's what you like. So, I wanted to show my 2 finished sleeves for my romance cardigan. It's a little difficult to show with the amount of space that I have. I'm a little close. But I'm so happy with it. It's very snuggly and warm. I love my cuff length. Like I mentioned in my last podcast episode, this is made with acrylic yarn. It is a discontinued acrylic yarn. And it means that it doesn't really grow with blocking. I find acrylic doesn't really change at all. I think you're lucky if you get acrylic to lay flat and smooth out. So I really wanted to make sure I knit the sleeves and that I'm currently knitting the body to the length that I want pre-blocking, because I know it won't really grow past that. So yes, I have both sleeves done, which I'm really, really happy about. And I'm getting close to being able to switch to ribbing for the body. I have to do another one of these weird kneeling up shots, but there's the end of my tank top, and my sweater is just a little bit beyond that. It's not going to be that deep because it needs to go back a little bit in order to match up with the back. So this is kind of what I'm working at with length. So it's about the same length as my tank top. I think I want maybe another inch of stockinette before I switch over to ribbing, because I want about the same length of ribbing that I have on my cuffs, and I don't really feel like that will get me the full length that I want. So I do want to do a little bit more stockinette before I switch to the ribbing. But I'm so happy with it, and once I finish that bottom ribbing, I really just need to do the neckband and the buttons, and then I'm done. And it's so close to being done. I just haven't really been giving this one a lot of attention because it is a bit of a big project, and the rows are long because it's the whole body stockinette flat. So I really only work on this one when I'm at home. I don't really take it to work on at work. So that's why this one hasn't been getting any attention. So I'm going to try and give it some more attention, especially because I'm so close and I do want to finish this. It would be really nice to finish this one in order to wear in September, but it's okay if I don't. I'm not going to feel upset about myself, and I'm going to be proud of myself whenever I finish this. So when I first casted on this project, it was meant to be a project that was going to get me out of my funk of having all of my garment projects not work out. And it was Doyle, my husband's suggestion, to pick a pattern that I know works for me. And I've already knit this sweater twice, once for myself and once for my maid of honor, because I knit it as our wedding cardigans, in case that wasn't clear, or in case you are new here. And I really wanted to make a more day-to-day version, because my wedding version is knit with mohair. No, mine's with brushed alpaca. My maid of honors is with mohair. And I just find that because I knit it specifically for my dress, it's too short. It's kind of difficult to wear in my daily wardrobe. I kind of find the balloon sleeves are a little too big for everyday wear. That feels really special and fancy to me. So I wanted one that had these tapered sleeves, which, if you've seen my last episode, I go into detail about, because this is not part of the pattern. This is something that I came up myself. So if you want to know all about the tapered sleeves, go watch my last podcast episode. And I'm feeling really happy with it, and I'm okay if it takes a bit longer to make, because this was meant to be sort of like my garment pattern cleanser. I know that sounds kind of weird. I'm thinking of like palette cleanser, but pattern cleanser. And this one was always just meant to be a project to bring me joy. So I'm okay taking a little longer to work on it. It doesn't have to be rushed. Now, before I move on to more active whips that I'm going to talk about in depth, I just wanted to show off my Seaborn tee, which I was very, very close to doing the split last time. I have done it. There's the armhole bound off. That is the row where you do the armhole bind off. I haven't started doing either the front or back flat yet. And my knit along with Hannah of Herb Garden Knitwear has officially ended. I'm recording this on September 1st. It ended on August 31st, so just one day later. But I wanted to show this for a couple reasons. First, I wanted to point out that it's okay if you don't finish a project during the timeline of a knit along. I don't think I have ever finished a knit along project in the timeline of a knit along. And I've participated in 4, and I've hosted 2 of those 4, and I didn't finish my project for any of them. And that's okay. I really wanted to show people that you don't have to finish by the deadline of a knit along. They're meant to be fun. They're meant to be a community experience to kind of bring people together no matter where you are, because you're all working on the same thing. I also wanted to point out that I think I'm going to frog this. I know. It's so much work, and that bottom scalloped edging, it's gorgeous, but it's really challenging. And the cast on, it's a very specific cast on that you need to do. That was really hard to do. And I'm going to basically be undoing all of what I did, but with good reason. I knew I was concerned about it in my last episode. I know for sure I'm not happy with it now because I haven't continued to work on it because I know it's not perfect for me. It's too big. I've chose too big of a size. It is meant to be a positive eased pattern, but with the drape of the cotton yarn, I want a tighter fit. So I'm going to go down either one size or two. I haven't decided yet. After doing this tank top and having success with the bust darts, I thought about doing a size that matches my upper bust measurement and doing vertical bust darts because you don't want to do horizontal bust darts with stripes. They will look very weird. But I could do vertical ones. That's no problem. I have a pattern that does have vertical bust darts and I can take the info from that one and apply it to this one. So I am going to frog this. I'm probably going to go down a couple of sizes and I'm going to start it over again. And I'm going to be honest with myself, I might not do that until spring. So it's sad, but true. Those of us who were Little Mermaid fans as kids, you know that. It's a shame, but I'm not starting over from scratch. I'm starting over from experience. And I want to use my experience, especially of knitting this tank top, knowing that this very slight positive ease is all that I would want. I like my clothing to be more fitted. And a really big boxy t-shirt is not going to make me feel like myself and like my personal style. So I want to go back and make a version of this. It's a lot of work to do, but it's going to be worth it to get the top that I really want. So that's why I'm going to frog it and reknit it. On the total opposite end of the spectrum is my next whip, which is a very fitted tank top, which you'll notice has a lot more done on it since the last podcast episode. This is my 03 ribbed cami, and I'm going to put it on in a minute, but the last time that I showed this, it had maybe this much done on the back, and it had the cups done. So I have knit almost 12 inches of ribbing, and I did do those waist shaping rows. So I'm going to put this on for you and give you a show of how this fits my body because I'm so happy with the fit. So it does look like it's fitting me right, but I don't have straps yet. So I'm just kind of holding it up here. I can tuck my little strings behind and hopefully they'll kind of stay in place and I won't have a trapdoor situation happen. If I do, that's going to be cut. I'm so sorry if you were looking forward to that. Yeah. So this is my 03 ribbed cami by Eleanor Alice, and Eleanor is a new to me designer. I think she's relatively new to designing. I realize now it's called the 03 ribbed cami because it's the third pattern that she's done, and I think she's on either 10 or 11 right now. So she's still a newer designer, but oh my goodness gracious, has she done the work to make sure her pattern fits you perfectly. And I'm so grateful for that work. And all of her patterns are size inclusive. They are made for a wide range of bodies, and it fits so good. And I'm so happy with the fit. It's night and day with that beignets tank top, and I love it so much. And I'm trying to finish this one in my last few days of quiet before my busy September. But if I can't make it happen, I can't make it happen. I'm not going to be upset about it. I am almost done my first two balls. And I think when I run out of this yarn, then I'm going to pick up and do the straps because I'm going to modify the straps a little bit. So I am using Hedgehog Fibers sock held double. This is their colorway Hush, which is one of my favorite colors in the world. And I have used it held double, and these were the first 2 skeins that I have, and I have one more skein, which I'm just going to divide in half and hold double. And I will first knit my straps to get the strap length that I need, and then I'm just going to use whatever I have left to get the length of body that I need. I'm actually really close to having a length that I'm happy with, because I think this one would be really nice as a cropped version. And I think I only need maybe another inch or 2 to get a length that I would be perfectly happy with. So let's see if I can do another one of these weird kneeling up to show you the pattern. So here is what I have so far. This is my natural waist right here. I've got leggings on today, so everything's kind of like snatched, as people would say on the internet. Not me, I don't say snatched. But this is what it's looking like in the back. So it does need to be pulled up a little bit, which the straps will do that for me. So I know that that's going to work out quite nicely, but it's just, look at that perfect fit, like especially from the side, because this perfect fit is because I did the waist shaping. I did the personalized waist shaping. There are a couple of different options, and I chose one that was based on the difference between my full bust measurement and my waist measurement. I'm so glad I did it. I know ribbing is already going to like pull you in, but when I got to the point where you're supposed to start decreasing for that waist shaping, I tried it on and there was gapage. So it was coming out to about here, the same point that it is on my full bust, but with that waist shaping, it tucks in, and I am so happy with it. Like Gigi says, it's not hard, it's new, and sometimes you need to take a chance on something new to have something wonderful happen, and I'm just so happy with this pattern. I just think it fits absolutely beautifully. It is super sexy. It is kind of low right now. You can see the bits of my bra like you could with my white tank top, but when I do my straps, I'm going to make them a little shorter and pull it up a little bit, and that's basically all I need just to keep everything nicely covered. So I have one more project to share, then some future plans, a stash spotlight yarn, and a book review. We are getting close to the end. I know this is getting to be a little long, but I had a lot to share, so I hope you don't mind. Amongst all of these garment patterns, I also have an accessory. So if you've seen my newly released video, I just posted it a couple of days ago, so this video will probably come out about a week afterwards. I did another pattern roundup of the cute little scarves, and I did show this one off. I think I was only about here when I showed it off in the video, but this is just a little scarf that I am making up as I go along, and I am just knitting in garter. I haven't decided yet if I want to do anything with this pattern. I know I have said in the past that I am not intending to ever be a pattern writer, but I'm kind of enjoying this, and it does feel a little different than what I have seen out there, but honestly, I'm not putting the pressure on myself to do that. Not everyone who is a podcaster or someone who is well known on Instagram for knitting has to become a pattern writer, and I do have a free pattern on Ravelry that I designed in 2017, maybe 2018, and that was just a free pattern because I just made up a colorwork chart in Excel and decided to share it with people. But anyway, I'm making a little scarf. I love this color. It is coming out quite a bit dark. I wonder if I can, oh, there. Now you can see the color pretty well. Yes, there's the color. So it's this beautiful, I want to say it's like mauve, or it's like a very light burgundy. The yarn is Farmer's Daughter Fibers. I don't remember the name of it, but it is their Stellina sock base, or Stellina fingering base, that I got on a trip to Portland, Oregon back in 2019. So I don't even know if they still make it, but the color is Pecuni, and I don't know what a Pecuni is. I will look that up, and if I find out, I'll put it on the screen here. Could just be a random word that they've used. I'll find out and put it on the screen. But I had this skein in my stash for a while. Here's the ball that I have wound up. I've wound it up double because I had initially bought this yarn intending to make a shawl. I bought it from Starlight Knitting Society, which is one of my favorite yarn stores I've ever been to. If you're ever in Portland, Oregon, I do highly recommend that yarn store. And they had a sample hanging on, either on a mannequin on a shelf or hanging from a hanger on the wall, that it was called the Marin shawl, I think. And it looked really cute. It had these nice little scallops. But I really don't like to make small yarn projects with small needles that take forever and a day. So that's why I hadn't knit this pattern in the past 5 years, because I went to Portland in September 2019, so almost 5 years ago today. No, I went later in September at the time. Anyway, I digress. I just hadn't gotten around to making it because I wasn't really excited about knitting a thin fingering weight shawl with like over 400 yards of yarn and like size 3, aka 2.75 millimeter needles. It's not really my jam, so it kept getting pushed to the bottom of the queue. And then 2 weeks ago, we were going to a family wedding. But all of my projects, as you will have just seen, were getting close to the end of their progress, and they were all really big. They weren't purse size able to take to the wedding. I needed something smaller. So I was looking at the yarns in my stash, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to grab one and try and make a little scarf. So I saw this one, and it's one that I hadn't used when it was single strand. So I thought, I'm just going to wind that up double, and I'm just going to come up with something. I thought I was going to follow a pattern, and I started in the car on the drive down because it was down on the South Shore, so about an hour's drive for us. And I wasn't liking the pattern that I was trying to follow, so I decided, scrap that, I'm just going to try and make up my own pattern. So I just started at the bottom. I cast on just a couple of stitches, and I did some increases along one side. And this one does not have any edging. There's no I-cord edging or anything like that. I just did slipped stitches, which, granted, they don't look a lot different than just starting to knit in garter stitch. But I worked on this past weekend, and there was a row, I think it's on this side, where I did forget to do the slip stitch, and I just did the knitting. And it does look different from the rest of the edge. Right there. Instead of the bump going in this direction, the bump goes in this direction. So there's a little bit of a space right here, and then there's the bump going in the opposite direction. In the grand scheme of things, nothing that I'm ever going to worry about. I'm just knitting this to have a cute little scarf to wear, and I think it's going to be a really great one to wear in the transitional months, especially in the fall, because it looks like a really beautiful fall color. Back here, it's really, really dark. If I hold it further forward, you can see that it is this like beautiful mauvey berry color. Anyway, I just wanted something small to work on. I worked on it again this past weekend, so I did get a little bit of work on it, but I was working on it in front of a fire at night, and that's why I made that mistake, because I couldn't see my knitting, and I was kind of just going by feel, and I forgot that I was doing slip stitch edging, so doesn't bother me in the least. And I have a little stitch marker on the front to mark my front versus my back, because I did all my increases on the front. And this one is, if you don't recognize it, it is Taylor Swift's Sparkly Guitar. See if it sparkles. And this is by Little Calico Clay, who is a local earring maker here in Nova Scotia. And when she did her Taylor Swift collection, a lot of her earrings have that backing where it pops open and closed. So you can use it for both a knit stitch marker and a crochet progress keeper. I asked her if she would make me a set of stitch markers, and she did, and I was so happy. I got a couple of them. I have the Sparkly Guitar, I have the cardigan from Folklore, I have the red heart sunglasses from Red, and I have the black heart with rep written on it for reputation. So they're all on various projects that I've shown, so you might have seen them before now. But I did want to just point them out because I love them so much and I love Ashton and her work. So I want to share that. And while I'm talking about that, I'm wearing these really fun book stack earrings. These are by a local Canadian maker. She's based in Ontario though, so she's not super local to me, but she's still local enough that she's, Canadian. These are by Little Shop of Morris, and they were from her Lord of the Rings collection, and they're so cute. These ones are a little heavy, so I don't wear them for very long, but I also got a book stack necklace from her, and I really love it. And I am considering buying from her fall Hobbit collection that she just released, but I did just get these, so I should probably lay low on buying from her for a little bit, just because I've bought a lot lately. All right, so let's talk fall projects. And I have something besides knitting to share in this segment. Recently, I finished sewing a skirt. I'm going to pop a picture here. I am so happy with the skirt. It is my very first successful sewn garment. I just followed a tutorial on YouTube. I will link it below. And I used this beautiful linen fabric that I got from a Canadian company called Pure Linen Envy. And because that project was so successful, it has made me feel confident to tackle a few more sewn pieces. So my next project for sewing is going to be my cosplay for our local Comic-Con event. I am going to be cosplaying as Howl from Howl's Moving Castle. It is my favorite Studio Ghibli movie. It's one of my favorite books from growing up, and I've always wanted to do a female Howl. As you can see, I've got the hair color. I would do blonde Howl, clearly. I wouldn't do black-haired Howl, because wigs are not fun. They're hot, they're scratchy, they're itchy. I don't like to wear them, but sometimes I have to. But I am very excited to be doing that. The side effect of that is, as a plus-size person, it is very challenging to get a cosplay outfit to fit me. All of the ones that are in my price range are all too small for me. They cap out a few sizes too small for me. But to get one that is custom made is out of my budget. So I found a pattern on Etsy, and I'm nervous, but I'm feeling brave, and I want to try to make Howl's Harlequin jacket. And I want to share someone else's, like a professional cosplayer's version of this jacket, because I kind of based my fabric choices on that. I don't have my fabric with me now, but if I can, I'll put pictures on the screen. And I'm just so excited to try and make that. I do have an aunt that is a very good sewer, and if need be, I will reach out to her and ask her for her help. But I'm hoping I can do a lot of it myself, like especially with the Harlequin diamonds. Those I'm just going to be knitting them flat. Those I'm just going to be sewing flat together to create the piece of fabric for the front two panels. The one thing that I need to do that I'm a little nervous about, because I'm kind of going off script with this, my beige fabric that I got for the sleeves is a lot thinner and flimsier than the brocade fabric that I got for the Harlequin design on the front. So I'm going to add some interfacing to that to make it stiffer, and I'm a little worried about that, so I'm going to try a sample piece first. But I really wanted to get the same thickness of fabric so that it didn't go from like stiff and firm front to really flimsy and delicate and swishy sleeves. So that's my first sewing project that I'm going to try and attempt, because I'm on a bit of a deadline for that. I will still have about a month to make it by the time my busy September is over, and I can really get into it in October. And there's a couple of long weekends in October. We have Thanksgiving here in Canada in October, and then the convention. Oh no, the convention is before Remembrance Day, so I might only have one long weekend to work on it. But anyway, that's what I'm going to try and make for my cosplay. And one of my best friends is going to be cosplaying as Calcifer, so we're going to be a cosplay team. My husband Doyle did cosplay last year. We went as Link and one of the Great Fairies from Breath of the Wild. I had intended to be Zelda, and I had intended to sew my cosplay, but that was when my sewing machine and I were not on speaking terms, and it did not go very well. So I had to scrap that and cobble a costume together that I could make with found pieces and with hot glue. So I'm hopeful that this will go okay. In the end, it's just a jacket, which is a more advanced piece of sewing that I have done so far, but I feel like I have the help if I need it, so it might be okay. But anyway, that's my first sewing project that I'm going to work on. My second one should be a little easier. I'm going to try and sew a dress. And this is the Hannah dress by Handmade London. And this one I actually have the physical pattern because I bought this when By Hand London was having a sale. And the sale was 50% off all of their physical patterns. So even though I got the physical pattern for half price, I still had to pay shipping because it's from London, so it's international shipping for me. But I'm really excited because it comes with a booklet and, the paper pattern pieces, which the paper pattern pieces kind of scare me a bit because they're very thin. So I have ordered this thing that I don't know the name of it because I'm still new to sewing, but it is a tracer wheel, I think. It's this wheel that has little spokes on it that you use to trace the lines of your pattern size, because I'm pretty sure I know what size is going to fit for me, but I don't want to cut into the pattern and say for sure, yes, that's the size that will fit for me. So I'm going to just trace the size because I'm using linen fabric. Linen can pierce pretty easily with those little markings to tell me where I need to cut the shape. And I'm not the best at cutting out pattern pieces with like the pattern on top. I usually use a rotary cutter, but this is a dress. I'm going to have to lay it on the floor. I don't really want to use my rotary cutter directly on the floor. I usually have a cutting mat underneath, but my cutting mat is not big enough for these pieces, and I don't really want to move the fabric with the pattern on it. So once I make those markings, I'll use my normal scissors. I also have these really cool scissors. Claude from Retro Claude also uses them. I think they're called anti-fatigue scissors because instead of having to put the pressure on to close the scissors, they're on a spring. So they're always open and you just have to gently squeeze and then they open back up again. So they're really easy to use if you have hand mobility problems. I just like them because they make cutting easier because they're not stiff like normal scissors are. Because I have a pair of scissors from the same brand that are supposedly fabric cutting scissors, but they're not the greatest and I don't really like using them. I really like using these anti-fatigue scissors. So I'll link those in the description box below if you're also interested in those. Any of the sewing tools that I talk about, I'll link below in case you're also interested in that. I'm getting into sewing now. Mia from the Knit and Grace podcast said I have joined the dark side. And there's more crafting notions you need to buy on the dark side. Anyway, getting back to the Hannah dress by Hand London. There are 3 variations. I'm going to be doing the middle version, which has short sleeves. It's a wrap dress. I found out about this pattern a long time ago and purchased it, but the reason I decided to take it out of my stash and try and make it now is because one of my friends from my local knitting club just made it, and that told me that if I have trouble with this, I know exactly who I can call. So I have someone on standby that can help me out if I'm in a bind with this pattern. But I was looking through it earlier today, and it does seem pretty straightforward. On the front of the package, it has these 3 sewing machines. Those tell you the difficulty level, and this is just a 1 sewing machine difficulty, so it's a relatively easy pattern. I'm really impressed with the sizing range of By Hand London because I'm 50 I think I'm a 51-inch bust right now, but usually that means, especially with sewing patterns from the big companies, I'm usually the biggest size there is. And for my Howl cosplay, I'm like the second biggest size. For By Hand London, I think the size that works out best for me is the very middle size. So there's plenty of sizes before me and plenty of sizes after me. So I'm really, really impressed with the size inclusivity of their sewing patterns. And I just hope it's as easy as I think it's going to be. My friend did say that it was a fairly easy pattern. She's quite an experienced sewer. So hopefully that means for me, it's just going to be a little bit of a challenge, but a nice progression from following that YouTube tutorial for my skirt and moving on to an actual pattern. So I tried to make a pattern last year, and it was going to be my first ever pattern. I did ask some people that I know in a Discord server who are all into sewing what a great first garment to sew would be, and I was recommended a skirt. So I chose the Estuary skirt by Sew Liberated. I love that skirt. I have that pattern. I bought that pattern. It is not beginner friendly, and it is recommended as an easy pattern. And everyone I've talked to since then has said, oh no, that's mislabeled. That's an intermediate pattern. And so the process of trying to make that skirt was so hard, and it really just turned me right off trying to sew for a year. So maybe I'll come back to that at some point when I feel that I've gotten a few more garments under my belt, but it was a challenging pattern. I don't actually think that I'll try and make that again, at least for quite a few years. I'm really happy with the YouTube tutorial that I found for a skirt pattern, and that worked out really great and gives a similar look to the estuary skirt. So I'm probably going to stick with that pattern. But yeah, I have some sewing patterns coming up in the fall. I did also have some knitting plans that I wanted to talk about, but honestly, I've been talking for quite a while, so maybe I'll talk about those in my next podcast episode. Let's move on to my stash spotlight. The yarns that I'm about to show you are from a pre-order that actually happened around this time last year, but I wasn't able to order from the pre-order at the time, so I got these in the leftovers sale closer to December or January, I think. I think I got them in January, yes. I did, because I ordered them on my birthday. My birthday's at the end of January. But these are from the Corner of Craft. And the color's not showing up correctly. I am going to hold them closer to the screen. But these are by Hannah of the Corner of Craft. She's also known as Chromatic Yarns. So her yarn brand is called Chromatic Yarns. Let's see if that can... Let me only show one, so hopefully it'll focus. I think that's focusing. I hope that's focusing. Anyway, Hannah is a D&D fan. She's based in the UK. I think she is in Nottingham, which is in mid to north UK, England. And she did this collection based on the book Legends and Lattes, which I haven't read yet, but it is on my list to read. It's a really cute D&D story. I got it for Doyle a couple of years ago for when we did our year of books that we opened up. That was the one that he started with when he opened them up, and he loved it. He thought it was such a fun story. And there is a second one as well that's a prequel. I haven't decided yet if I want to start with a prequel and then go to the first book in the series. So the first book is Legends and Lattes, and the prequel is it's something to do with books, and I can't remember it right now. Bookshops and Bone Dust. Yes, that's it. Okay. So they're both alliterative titles, which I think are so cute. So I don't know which one I'm going to start with, but I will read those at some point because I'm trying to get into D&D. It's a little hard for me. I kind of struggle with the time commitment of D&D, and I'm trying to get better at it. I do want to get into it because Doyle is really into it. We have started doing a campaign with a group of friends. We've only done 2 so far, but it is really fun to get together, have delicious snacks. It's prime knitting time, but it's a little bit of a struggle for me, but I'm trying to get into it. Anyway, these are based on the books Legends and Lattes, and the color is Magical Flame. If you've read Legends and Lattes, you'll probably know what that refers to. I have not. So I saw pretty forest green yarn, and that's what I bought. So I purchased 2 of her sturdy sock base and 2 of her fluffy lace base, which is mohair. And I originally bought them to do a Lento sweater, and then I saw Victoria Merchant Knits Belfort sweater, which is essentially the same gauge as the Lento sweater. So it's a fingering weight and a mohair knitted up on US size 10 needles, which I think is a 6mm needle. And different from the Lento, it's a circular yoke base with this gorgeous band of lace. And I have said before that lace knitting kind of makes me nervous, but I have actually knit this exact same lace before, because this lace was featured on my Augustine's number 21 sweater dress that I made. And this was the bottom of the skirt, and it was the bottom of the cuffs. And I know exactly how that lace knits up. I feel confident tackling that in this sweater. And it's just going to look so beautiful in these greens. So Victoria's is done in a beautiful like burnt orange, red squirrel kind of color. I think these would be perfect for me, and maybe I'll get to this year. I'm not quite sure. I would love to do it this fall, but I have some other things that I want to make this fall. So that is my stash spotlight. You can purchase Hannah's yarn. Her shop is currently closed because she just had a baby this summer. So I'm pretty sure she'll have her shop open in another few months. So while you are waiting for her shop to open, she has a YouTube channel and an Instagram. But if you go over to her YouTube channel, she does some vlogs as well, and she also does podcast episodes. So I recommend following her. She's quite lovely, and she dyes a lot of yarn based on D&D themes. She did an advent calendar last year that was all spells from D&D, and I knew a couple of them because I've been learning them. But this year her advent calendar is Muppet Christmas Carol. Yeah, because it's my only version of Christmas Carol that I like. But I do recommend following Hannah. She's really, really sweet. And I love her yarn. I have a couple of her yarns, so they might make more appearances in my staff spotlight section. All right, last thing on the docket, my book review. I just finished last night The Wedding People. This is by Alison Espach. I'm so sorry that I do not know how to pronounce your name, and I got that totally wrong, I'm sure. But this is a book that I just got from my local library. It was also one of the Book of the Month choices for last month, but I chose a different one because I chose the new Casey McQuiston book, which I'm so excited to read. But this one was definitely one that was on my radar. I saw that my library had a copy, and I didn't have to wait very long. I think there was only a couple people ahead of me. But I just finished it last night, and I really liked this book. So the premise of the story is that the main character, Phoebe, is really unhappy with her life. Things have just been going really downhill for her. So she decides to book a hotel. It's a beautiful, fancy hotel that she's always wanted to go to, and kill herself there. But she doesn't do it. She doesn't go through with it. When she gets there, she realizes there's a huge wedding going on, and she's the only person staying at the hotel who's not involved with the wedding. And somehow, she becomes really good friends with the bride, and she gets involved with the wedding. And it's really cool to see how everyone involved with the wedding thinks that she's involved with the wedding, but they know she's kind of an outsider, and they all feel really comfortable being truthful to her and telling her how they really feel. And there's a really great cast of characters in this book. I likened it to saying it's kind of an exploration of weird people and about the mindsets that people get into when they're involved in a wedding. And having just gotten married last year, it was kind of funny to see some of the things that were going on in the heads of the people involved in this wedding that I kind of didn't necessarily experience, but knew that was a possibility when I was doing my wedding. Obviously, there's a big difference because the wedding in this book is $1 million wedding. And I did not spend that much on my wedding. I don't even know what $1 million looks like in a bank account because I don't think I'll ever see that. But it was just really interesting to see how the different people acted and how the wedding influenced them, and it affected their emotions and it affected their decision making. And it was just really, really interesting to see that exploration of character. And I am a character reader. I have to enjoy the characters of a book in order to read that book. And I really enjoyed this one. And other than one choice that Phoebe makes close to the end of the book, I loved her and I loved everything that she did. And it was a really cool book. You kind of have an idea of how it's going to end, but it was still a great read, even if it was a tiny bit predictable. But I gave this one 4 stars on Goodreads, and when I did my my book challenge that I do I did it last year and I did it again this year. Every month I pick a favorite book, but so far I've only had one book that I've been reading each month. So this is the book that I read in August, and in the book bracket that I did on Instagram, it's saved in my book highlights. It was up against 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, and I put this one ahead of that one purely because the fat phobia in that book really turned me the wrong way. This one didn't have anything like that in it, and it was just a great exploration of character. So I really enjoyed this book. You might too. Hi everyone, Editing Whitney here in my hoodie that Doyle made for me with the cricket. I was so focused on trying to finish my podcast episode quickly that I totally forgot to share one of my favorite things about the wedding people. And that was this really beautiful line at the end of the book. It says, "Becoming who you want to be is just like anything else. It takes practice. It requires belief that one day you'll wake up and be a natural at it." I just really loved that. It was one of my favorite things about the book. I thought it was a really beautiful line, and I wanted to make sure that I put this in the podcast episode and shared it with all of you. So back to the rest of the episode now. And with that, we are finally wrapping up this quite long episode 27 of the Knitted by Whitney podcast. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end. I know this was quite a long one, but I had a lot of great stuff that I wanted to share with you, and I really appreciate you sticking around to the very end. If you want to give me a tip, I do have a link to my Ravelry wish list in the description box below. If you would like to give me a tip, you could buy me a pattern for my wish list. There's no pressure, it's only if you would like to. If you're a new viewer, thank you so much for joining me, and if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate it. While you're here, it would help my channel if you would like this video, subscribe to my channel, and leave me a comment below. Tell me something you enjoyed about this podcast episode. I love seeing what you comment and being able to reply to you. So thanks for sticking around with me for this long podcast episode, and I hope you all take care and happy knitting!